Hello, this is the RPG Pundit, the final boss of Internet Shitlords. And I'm here today, as you can see, I've got here a Ravenloft book. It's a 3rd edition Ravenloft book, mostly just because it's the only one I still have. I used to, of course, have the original module way back when, and the original box set of the setting, but not anymore. I don't know where they've ended up. It's been a long time. But I'm here to talk to you in part about Ravenloft, in a bigger sense, though, about wondering just exactly what is the stupidest thing happening in gaming today. So I think that one really stupid thing that is happening in gaming today, relating to Ravenloft, of course, is that you have game designers saying, we're going to strip everything you like about this game because we hate you. We hate the type of gaming that you like. We would put you in a camp if we could, right? We're going to forcibly make this game into something you hate as a way to punish you. Now, please buy our game, right? It would seem to me that would be a really bad sales pitch. That would seem to me, if you had been to ask me, if I for financial advice, should I try to sell my product by saying, we despise you, we think you're monsters that probably should be eliminated. Now, please consider buying our product. And I would say that would be a bad tactic to take, right? But perhaps what's more stupid is that gamers go, I really hate what they've done to my game setting. I hate this wokeness. I hate this political correctness. I hate the people that they've hired that have no background in RPG design. I hate these people that they've put in there purely as tokenistic hires that are meant to be an act of aggression against traditional gamers. I hate the politicizing of all of these games, but I've got to buy the next product because I've got all the other D&D books, so I will buy it. Thank you very much. That to me is monumentally more stupid than the person saying, I hate you, fuck you, buy my game, right? For the other person to say, you wish I was dead, I despise everything that you've done to my product, to my hobby, I'm going to buy your product anyways, And this is the dilemma in which we find ourselves. Because I've run into people already who have said, well, the Ravenloft book, I've got to buy that one, but it's the last one I'll ever buy, right? Which sounds to me like an incredibly stupid thing to say, because the game is going to be crap. It's going to make a mockery of everything you love. That it's been designed by people who despise you. But once again, the particular type of mental deficiency of nerdism has struck you, and you're going to insist on getting it just for completeness sake, right? Or whatever other reason, because you're a collector, because there's something fundamentally wrong with you in your soul, basically. Don't buy stuff from people who despise you and would want to put you in camps if they had the power to do so, right? That's a bad idea. It's a bad idea to give those people money, power, or attention, So you've got to turn this around. And it is without a doubt that what they're doing with the new Ravenloft book, now that there's more information about it, they're admitting it. They admit it openly, right? They in an interview in Polygon, the creators of the new Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, the new setting book for Ravenloft, said, well, one of the things we want to do is get rid of these outdated tropes that are really offensive and replace them with high fantasy. And what the hell is this? So basically, you don't want Ravenloft to be horror anymore, right? Specifically, you don't want it to be gothic horror, but you don't actually want it to be a horror game at all. You want it to be an exposition of multicultural diversity and, gender fluidity and whatever else, and your particular agenda in a land full of monsters. But fundamentally, those are probably not really going to be bad monsters anymore, right? This is a basic problem. How can you write any kind of horror literature or create a horrific world if you don't believe anything is true or real, right? And you don't believe in the idea of goodness, of moral absolutes? Because then you can't, right? You can't have Dracula being an absolute evil if you don't believe there is such a thing as absolute evil, right? If you don't believe that there's anything that's true, then there's no way that you can justify, and in fact you would despise, a genre that is all about talking about the struggle between good and evil, because to you that would be oppression. And in fact, that's exactly what is going on here, right? These are the bastard children of Foucault and Derrida who believe in nothing, and so they need to destroy anything that will stand out. And that includes the scary stuff that sometimes, it's funny because in the past, of course, there were some conservative types that didn't like certain parts of the horror genre because it was, it seemed to them to be in some way elevating evil, except that it, almost always the horror genre is about, in the end, what is good triumphing over what is evil. And that's something that these leftists have very much figured out, and they don't want that to be a feature. Of course, part of Ravenloft being set up as a game setting by TSR makes it easier for them because the Dark Lords, in terms of canonicity, are never defeated, right? They're because you can do that in your own game. You can run a home game where your goal is to have high level characters that can take on and kill some of these Dark Lords, which are really, really tough opponents, right? But in the next book, they're still going to be there, right? And so this is something that allows them to now shift this. And part of this is also that they see this as an element of Western imperialist oppression, right? In that same interview, the creator was talking about how if, that you have some of these settings, like there's the one with Anctopot, the mummy. I forget the name of that particular domain of dread. Ravenloft was never one of my biggest settings, so to say. I like the module, but I didn't really ever get all that into the setting. But anyways, there's the one that's meant to be the classic kind of mummy story. And in this version, they're like, well, we're going to make it totally different. The mummy's going to look fabulous, and there won't be actually any foreign adventurers coming in to rescue the people from this mummy. The mummy will be there ruling, and then there'll be natives that are there too. And of course, this first of all is stupid because there have always been natives in the setting, right? In previous books done 20 years ago, there was talks about like there are good characters in that particular domain, just like there are in every native domain that are fighting against the evil themselves, right? So. But the problem is what they really don't want is for your adventurers to be outsiders that come to help these people, because that seems a little too much to them like imperialism, which they think is somehow wrong, even though they don't believe in good and evil. So, but it's perfectly okay for a mummy to keep existing as long as it's because it would be much worse, I guess. The lesson of this is that it would be much worse for from their point of view, for a group of white guys to come and take out a mass murdering psychopath, dictator, than to just let him keep ruling, it'd be, and murdering millions of people. That's okay as long as nobody's being racist by stopping him. Like it's just so stupid. And then of course, they've done what you can expect, where almost every realm has had at least one race and or gender shift, right? The Frankenstein equivalent in the setting, Dr. Frankenstein is now a woman. And you have, in Mordant, which is like the English Gothic ghost story setting, you have the Weathermaid Foxlow twins are presented now as being black, right? Which these aren't just random drawn characters or characters that came out of nowhere, right? They're on a fundamental part of the story of Mordant, which is very clearly meant to be, like 18th, 19th century England with ghost stories, and they are the twin daughters of two of these old family aristocrats of the setting. So we know who their parents are. We know they're not adopted, right? But just without any need for any explanation whatsoever, the new book race shifts them. Could you imagine if somebody tried to take in let's say the Asian type setting of the Domains of Dread and presented a kind of a head monk of a secret order fighting the the evil forces of the hopping vampires. If that head monk was presented as like a white guy, you know, could you conceive of what that would be if he was like, you know, like Kwai Chang Caine or Walker Texas Ranger? You know, like there would be very righteously maybe some, you know, opposition to that, right? Especially if there was no explanation provided. If it was just, you're just meant to assume that, of course, you know, the head monk is going to be a white guy, the guy fighting the evil is going to be white, right? But here in Morton, you're expected to cheer and applaud that for no reason at all they've changed the race of the two monster fighters in this particular location, right? Who are major NPCs in the setting, right? Like they're part of Van Richten's team of monster fighters. But there's a worse example still. You can check it out on Twitter. They've presented in the Cardikas setting, which is meant to be like the like kind of Germanic Gothic horror stories of with like it's based on it's a bunch of little towns in a mountainous region with an emphasis on the role of the Meistersingers, right? It's like the Meistersinger von Nuremberg, right? That sort of stuff. The Dark Lord of that realm, Harkin Lucas, is presented again as a black character. Now, you could argue technically, because Harkin Lucas is like a shapeshifter, a wolf wear, that he could be able to shift to a different race, right? That's fine. But the stupid thing is that they very clearly redrew him, right? Like in the old Ravenloft stories, he is a Meistersinger. He's dressed as a master, Renaissance era master singer of the Germanic kind of tradition, right? He's got a monocle and, a pointy mustache. And he's like a dashing figure, but a dashing figure very much in this kind of swashbuckling style, right? In the new art, he's presented as a dashing-looking black man with this trickster smile and with the fiddle, right? So this is a specific archetype that they've presented here, which is the idea of the devil fiddler, right? Like the story of the devil went down to Georgia, right? The demon that defies musicians to musical battles at the crossroads, right? Which is a part of Southern American Gothic horror, which is just pretty cool, right? So why did they waste it on an illustration that the only purpose was to co-opt and subvert a Western European concept trope in order to kind of make a presence? Like, it's the cheapest, or it's not doing any kind of actual social justice, right? This is woke hucksterism at its worst. Because if they wanted to do something really interesting that featured characters of color, they could have done a Domain of Dread that was all about the story of the devil in the crossroads, and the fiddling match from hell, and all of that sort of thing, and had that same drawing for that guy instead of using him to replace a character out of, Germanic horror, and they didn't do that because to them it's never about actually doing something creative or productive. They don't have the brains for it. They don't have the soul for it. They don't have the creativity for it. It's always just about scoring cheap points in a cultural battle, in their personal cultural battle against Western civilization. Right. And then if you try to complain, you're called a racist. Well, I'm calling them fucking racist, right? Because they're the ones who would rather try to erase a character of a specific race they don't like than create a useful, interesting, exciting setting that would have totally fit in with the horror genre, featuring a character of a non-white race. But they don't want to do that. Right? That's not their goal. Their goal is just to attack, to punish gamers for not being the right type of people, right? For liking this type of adventuring, this heroic adventuring that is to them anathema, right? This is Ravenloft being written by a group of people that hate Gothic horror, so that's why it's not Gothic horror at all anymore. Now it's high fantasy, right? It's just these are all wonderful people having high fantasy adventures wherever, and some of it is meant to be kind of like spooky themed in like this oh my god so random sense, but it's not actually a definable type of horror anymore. It's not really about the battle of good versus evil anymore, right? And then, they hate Gothic horror. They hate Dungeons and Dragons in general. A lot of them have no prior experience in making Dungeons and Dragons products. A lot of the people that they brought in to write these. And they specifically hate D&D fans and wish that they could get rid of them. In their ideal utopia, you wouldn't exist, right? And to get to that ideal utopia, if they ever get enough power, they'll make sure you don't exist anymore, right? That's part of the plan. So, why would you fund these people? Why would you give them money? This is a product that is meant to shit on everything you loved about the product that used to have that name. So why are you giving them money? Why are you insisting on this? Why are you so mentally wrong, right? So obsessive compulsive. You have to get this thing because that'll complete your collection, right? This is so stupid. You're gonna complete your collection all the way to the freaking gulag. That's what you're doing, right? But the funny thing is, even out of all of this might not be the stupidest thing about this Ravenloft product. The stupidest thing is that this is a Ravenloft product that is now explicitly not allowed, and people that have this game are explicitly not allowed to be scary. That's right, because the stupidest thing of all is their section on mental health and well-being when running Ravenloft, where there it explicitly says, this game is not meant to be scary for people. And if any of your players get scared by what you are running, you've done this wrong and you must immediately stop, because you are not there to scare other players, to trigger them, to make them victims, right? And you should feel bad about yourself if you do that, because you're a bad DM if you make them scared, right? It's supposed to be this OMG so random goofy horrorness that won't frighten anyone, and that definitely will not touch anything serious or meaningful in your lives, or get you thinking about higher myth or advanced philosophical ideas or the struggle of absolutes in a moral world. Those things are right out of the question. And so this is in a literal Ravenloft book. You're being told that you are forbidden to make any of your players feel scared. What was once, the holy grail of any scary RPG experience, not just Ravenloft, but Call of Cthulhu or, any of the other ones. If you're, it used to be, if you were a DM, because it's not easy to do in fantasy role-playing, right? It's not. When you're running a game, it's very hard to actually get your players to feel scared in a session that is supposedly a horror session. And so if you did it, you were an absolute badass, right? You were the king of DMs that night. If your players were actually freaking out over the experience. And now you're being told that if you do this, you're basically have committed a human rights violation and are a hate criminal now. So this is the world in which you exist, And these are the people that you are funding. So please, just stop giving them money. Don't do it anymore, all right? Instead, give money. Don't support Ravenloft. Support Star Adventurer, right? Here's a great, small but very packed space opera RPG. I'd show you a horror RPG, but I don't have one. I do have a lot of really spooky adventures that are based on actual medieval authentic myths, and legends. So real authentic stuff that you could get in many of the different adventures of the RPG Pundit Presents series. So you can check those out. They're on PDF. The link is in the description below. You'll find a bunch of those, a bunch of other RPG Pundit Presents that you can pick up, and that will, that you'll be getting something that you can actually use in your game, written by someone who doesn't hate you, written by someone who loves gaming, right? Because, you might say, well, it doesn't matter to me if you hate me or not. I just want a good product. Well, if you want a good product, it needs to be written by someone who loves gaming and understands gaming, right? The people that are being hired because of diversity quotas that their past experience is having a blog about feminism, that's not a qualification for being able to make a good game, right? Or a good adventure. So, you've got to think about those things. So check out my products, check out other OSR products, other products from gamers, from game designers that don't hate you for who you are and for what you do, and don't hate this hobby and don't hate the game, because those are the people that are going to give you something worthwhile. It's in your own interest, but also those are the people that are going to be on your side. So if you want me to keep making these videos, to keep bringing attention to this stuff, to keep fighting the good fight, check out all my products. The links are in the description below. I mean, if you really just want to throw money at me, you can PayPal me the money. There's a PayPal link there, or you can sign up on Patreon. I've got quite a few people. I don't know if there are people who have literally bought every book I've ever made, and now they still want to help me, so they're on Patreon. Maybe that's it. I'm not sure. But if not, if you want to get something back, like Star Adventurer is only $9.99 for print and PDF combined, right? It's only like a 40-page product, but it's a complete RPG, OSR, so totally compatible with any other OSR stuff. And I thought it was really cool. It's RPG Pundit Presents number 100, right? It's our special edition. So that's one example of something you can get. And, Lion and Dragon, Dark Albion, Cults of Chaos. Cults of Chaos, I mean, you want spooky. Cults of Chaos is a product, that's the one I really should have put up here. Now that I think about it, it's kind of dumb to put up Star Adventure. Just a second. Or actually, it was kind of dumb to put up Ravenloft. There we go. So, Dark Albion Cult of Chaos is a source book that is completely set up to make cults, sects, demon worshippers, witch cults, all kinds of evil groups and secrets, conspiracies and movements, complete with aims, with resources, with membership, with what they do, with what power they have, with who they serve, what gods or demons or monsters they serve, what their agenda is, what their oppositions are, their problems are, everything you need with just a series of roles or choices on a set of tables. You can, in 5 minutes, create an enemy group that'll be different than any other enemy group you create there, and use them in, an adventure that is based on the hooks you've just used to create them. So it's actually a fantastic product. It's all based on real medieval ideas and concepts, medieval authentic ideas and concepts out of medieval history, but you can use it in any D&D game. You can use it in any fantasy RPG, because the mechanics are OSR. So yeah, be sure to check that out, right? And anyways, be sure to share this video. If you haven't already, please subscribe, like the video, and post it anywhere that you think it'll be important for people to hear this message, or where you think it'll piss people off, for that matter, because it doesn't matter to me. So feel free to just share it. The more you share it, the better. I guess that's everything for today. Currently smoking Lorenzetti Solitario Poker plus Argento Natural.